Okay, let's try that again. I'm here quarantined in my house, and I thought I would just do a little conversation a little bit about kind of leadership and what's happening out there in the world right now. I think we've seen some really good leadership and some excellent communication and some stuff that's been a little bit challenging. So I thought I would just create a conversation and see what people are um, experiencing right now. And I see Cheryl on. Hey, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great to see some folks come on. So as we're talking here, just throw some comments down there. Would love to hear some of your thoughts and observations around this idea of leadership and what's working right now, what's not. How are you processing some of that, Tanya? Hey, Shane, welcome, guys. Thanks for being here. So leadership, big, sort of broad topic right now, and really like some of the communication that's coming out. So a couple points that I've noticed that have been pretty good. So you may have noticed the airlines have really taken a hit from the situation recently, and the CEO of United Airlines sent out a letter to his employees that really was super transparent and said, look, we're facing some tough times, and we have not necessarily been able to cut fast enough for the amount of cash we have, and essentially acknowledge that they're going to have to do some layoffs. And I thought that while that was a tough letter for anybody to receive that might work for United Airlines, I really appreciated the transparency around that, and I thought that was a pretty good example of somebody doing a good job of leading. The other thing I've seen too recently has been a lot of extra communication by people just saying, hey, this is where things are. And so in our businesses, we've gone to twice a day video conference calls with the team. In some cases, they're pretty fast. In some cases, they're more content rich, but at least at minimum, a real sort of touch in with the team. And hey, I've got Dawnberger. I'm going to bring you in here. Let's see.
Okay, waiting for you. There you are.
Oh,
Hey.
shit.
Uh-oh. That's a lot more interesting.
Whoa.
Whoa, that's right. You made it back.
Yeah, I went on a battery run.
You went on a battery run.
Battery
All right.
run.
So I was just rambling there, waiting for you to come on board. But now that you're here, it's a lot more interesting. I can tell you that right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dawnberger in the house.
Hold on, I got to touch my eyes. I don't want to do that on
Yeah,
camera.
what are you doing?
Oh,
You're
yeah, I'm
supposed
going to get...
You're supposed to be the epitome of a good example, my friend.
Yeah.
And now you're like rubbing your eyes after being on the street.
I know. It's fine.
So for those of you who don't know Don, although I'm not sure.
Hey, does this go to my followers?
I believe so.
Oh,
It
God.
should.
Poor souls.
Yeah, so careful what you say. Well, no, you're not going to have to be careful what you say. So I wanted to bring Don on. Don is the founder of Social Tables and an incredible entrepreneur just in general. And really a wonderful man and a beautiful human being. And handsome,
keep going.
Stylish. And by the way, if you're not following him on Twitter, you should. What's your handle on Twitter, actually?
Dawnberger at Dan Berger.
Right. So it's it pronounced Dawn, spelled Dan.
Yeah, at Dan Berger.
At Dan Berger. Yeah, seriously, follow him. He's got a lot of really great things to say. So tell me what's on your mind right now, like in terms of the state of affairs. Today's been another wild day.
Yeah.
You're an incredible leader. What the heck do leaders do right now? What are you seeing that's working versus the stuff that's probably bullshit that's not working at all? I mean, you have a really good bullshit meter, by the way, where you can see right through effectiveness or just not. So I'm curious, your observation. What are you seeing?
How nihilist 1 through 10 do you want me to get? Like how?
I think we're in the day and age of anything goes.
I mean, look, I think authentic, I think you're asking me about leadership. I don't think you're asking me about like the state of affairs. So I'm not going to give you my like pandemic, update. But look, I think I'd probably rate most most CEOs, I'd probably rate them right now the S&P 500, I'd probably rate them like a 6.
Mm-hmm.
Small business CEOs, I'd probably rate like a 7, which is like a blended average of like a 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
I think now is more than ever we need authenticity in how we actually communicate.
Yeah, we were sort of joking a little bit on Twitter. What is not authentic is when we're seeing things like out of abundance of caution statements, right? Or your safety and what we've gotten actually into some cliche catchphrases that need to go.
Well, you got to be, with these kinds of things, you got to be real fast in how quickly you ride the trend. And what seems super innovative yesterday is going to be like a total wash tomorrow. So, for example, if you start sending an email that you're cleaning your facility, that was cool a week ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you say you care about your employees, that was cool like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So I think what's interesting is the employers that and leaders that are ahead of the curve in terms of what are they doing to actually have an impact? I mean, look, if you're in hospitality, Compass, the local DC coffee place,
right,
just laid off 80 employees. Danny Myers, Union Square Hospitality Group, just laid off 80% of its employees. So this is impacting small and medium-sized businesses. And, other businesses like Burger King, McDonald's are revisiting their sick leave. Some of them have not been favorable. So, yeah, worst case scenario, you're dealing with 20% unemployment, according to Mnuchin, and those are Great Depression numbers. Right. So, I think the first thing you need to do is decide what you're going to do and then act emphatically. And most people are afraid to do that. That's the irony, right? During a crisis is when you need to act emphatically, and yet that's when people are most hesitant to take actions.
Yes, and you need to act now, even without having all the information you wish you had. Like it's happening so fast, you can't get the information ideally as a leader you would have to make these decisions. You've just got to execute, which is a little scary, right? Because you've got...
Yeah, Ben Horowitz has a really good, Ben Horowitz from Andreessen Horowitz, who wrote The Hard Thing About Hard Things, has a really good post that's really timeless. It's called Peacetime CEO versus Wartime CEO. And he talks about, how wartime CEOs are really the better CEOs because they've been through it. I think it's funny. Trump thinks he's a wartime CEO now suddenly.
The last few days here.
Yeah, but that's a different story. But
right.
So yeah, I think wartime CEOs are generally better equipped for this kind of stuff. And the reality is, if you're an entrepreneur that's started their business in the last decade, you don't know what that's like.
So what do you do if you're that entrepreneur? If you're like, wow, I've never seen this. I don't even know what's going on. Like, how do you find the opportunity in that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you do is you learn what it's like to be a wartime CEO. You realize you're not going to have funding. You realize the cash in the bank or your accounts receivables are what's going to make it through for you. And you start planning as if the end of the world is here.
Make the best worst case scenario plans you can.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of scenario planning, and I think that it's really important to start looking at the worst case scenario and plan for that, because that's probably going to happen.
The other thing I've noticed too is just the innovation that's coming out. Did you see Jose Andres, for example, took all of his restaurants in DC, these really nice restaurants, and turned them into community food kitchens like that.
Yeah.
But that sort of rapid innovation is happening all over the place. I think it's super exciting. But if you're not doing that, then you're dead in the water, and you may not even know it.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not figuring out how, especially if you're in restaurant or hospitality, right? How do you turn your business on its head?
Well, first of all, what I know, if I owned hotels and I had some underperforming assets, I would immediately put them up for sale to see if they can be converted into field hospitals. I know that California's done it. Clark County and Washington State has done it. So I would certainly do that. I would. I think it's really important to be transparent about what you're going to do. So first, you furlough which means you don't pay people, you ask them to leave, you don't fire them, but you put together a plan, and because like most CEOs are really, a lot of times most leaders are scared of saying their plans because they're scared people are gonna, leave or call their bluff. But the good news is that if you're a leader, people can't really go anywhere. Like they're not going to quit now,
Right.
because they value their jobs more than ever. So
Right.
you can be more honest, and you can share more drafts. Right? You can say, we are reviewing. There's going to be layoffs, and we're reviewing that.
Just being honest with you, people want that. They don't want you to bullshit them right now and say, well, no, like we're reviewing the possibility if this doesn't happen or this happens and this is going to happen. Transparency is key right now.
Yeah, and I know a lot of CEOs who, don't share cash flows, don't share balance sheets, don't share, their plans. And I learned the hard way that, we have a visitor. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Oh, there she goes. That's Paris.
I think you just need to be super honest and say, this is how much cash we have in the bank. We were planning to raise money a year from now because this was our runway. We need to make that runway last now for the next 3 years as opposed to the next 1 year. And as a result, we're looking at a potential layoff. So we want to let you know. Now, of course, you have to take it as, like, I really think that this week is probably like an all-time productivity low in terms of like, just by seeing like people joining this. I'm like, what's today, Tuesday? Wednesday. On a Wednesday, like, it's just, productivity is an all-time low. People are super distracted.
Yeah, everybody's a bit in shock.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have been really struggling and finding motivation and staying motivated. It's been really hard.
Yeah.
So I think you just gotta like deliver the news.
Yeah, and this is different in that, unlike a snowstorm or something that's 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a week of loss of productivity, and then you kind of get back at it. This is a new normal, and so I guess we're going to have probably this week where people are feeling pretty sluggish, but then at some point we've got to really adjust to the reality that we're in for the coming months, right? And find new ways to be productive or make those difficult decisions. Like that's what I think I'm struggling with a little bit, is grasping the longevity of this particular immediate crisis and the very likely longevity of the economic crisis that's already here, that we're just not even talking about, that's going to last longer than the virus likely will. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that, right? What do you do with that? I'm not sure that. Well, so let me change gears a little bit and ask you, small business owner. What does a small business owner do right now?
I mean, number one is survival. They say that only 75% of restaurants are going to come out of this alive. So, obviously, restaurants the first small business that comes to mind, because they have really high liabilities, right? They have to pay rent. That's not going anywhere, and that's their biggest cost. A startup can be like, guys, we're pulling out of our, or we're going to move to work from home or whatever. Social tables, our rent was $1.2 million a year, and we had 30,000 square feet of space. That's sitting idle right now. Anyway, so I would renegotiate contracts. I would renegotiate contracts with all the vendors, and start lowering costs immediately. Like, your first cost is going to be human capital. Your second cost is going to be real estate. And probably a third one is hosting if you're in startup. So cut costs, renegotiate, go out to bid, pull out of contracts, pay penalties, default, whatever, to stay alive.
Yeah. Everything's on the table right now, right? Everything is now negotiable. Even things that you wouldn't imagine are negotiable. Right now, everything's negotiable because everybody's in the same boat at the same time.
Yeah, everything is slowed down.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen on the real estate side a number of those inquiries, like rent abatement requests. Like it's just across the board. So
even the bank. I mean, even HUD is not evicting people. Right. It's like basically the pause button was it on life.
Yeah.
And it's like, you remember the mannequin challenge where it was like, you have to freeze,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
It's basically like a real life mannequin challenge.
It's a real life mannequin challenge.
And everything's frozen. And, you know, I'm buying a place in New York, and even that's up in the air right now. It's not going at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
so what about the opportunities? So how are you seeing
the framework I'd follow if I was a small business owner, is I would say, okay, number one, survive. How do I stretch? How do I just? So number one thing I would do is I would cut all as many fixed costs as possible. Then I would play with the variable costs. I'd push terms out, you know, slow things down. Number one. Number two, I would do a deep review of my products. Do I have anything potentially counter-cyclical? Do I have anything potentially revenue generating? Can I make certain offers that are more compelling now to pull in money through the door? Whatever. That's the second thing I would do. And then, by the way, all that being said, I would make sure to communicate. That's at the same time parallel pathing a communication plan with my entire staff to get ideas from them, to keep them in the know and make sure that they know things are fluid. But at the end of the day, your fiduciary responsibility, especially if you have investors, is to your investors. And that makes things a little tougher.
It does. Opportunities. Where do you see opportunities developing? Do you see anything yet? Or where are you like, that's new, that's interesting, I'm going to watch that?
Shale oil. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I think it's too early. I think that one example, I think the prepper community, the folks who have been preppers, or people who prepare for the end of the world, they have things called bobs or bug out bags that they have available they can just take. I think there's going to be like an explosion in the prepping community.
That community right now is going to be like, yes!
Yeah, they're
finally! We've been telling you for decades.
Yeah, and while we're on the phone, the Senate just approved the package, and I think it now goes to conference or whatever. But anyway, between the House and the Senate to reconcile the two bills. But anyway, I think the prepper community is going to see a big spike. It's interesting. I was reading Autozone is really counter-cyclical because people defer. Oh, they're an aftermarket company for car products. So people defer buying a new car because they're expecting car sales to drop 20%. And I think GM and Chrysler and Fiat all announced their plants are stopping production. Tesla has stopped production, even though Elon Musk tried to say that he was a critic. So my point is, AutoZone is counter-cyclical because people defer buying new cars and start repairing their cars. So I think the whole the repair economy is an interesting one. So you asked me what are some counter-cyclical business opportunities. I always think software that brings us closer together is a big opportunity. I think anything focused on community is going to have long-term results, right? Yes. If anything, that makes us, hi Eli, thank you. I think anything that brings us together. So anytime we're not together, it's like you ever think of like a relationship you were in. It's like you only start missing the person once you're no longer with them. Yeah. So it's like you really start valuing the people in your life, and you realize, wow, I really value human connection. I really love events. I need to go to more business events. I need to get closer to the communities that I'm a part of. And I think that hospitality is really set to gain from this, even though we're going to go through tremendous heartache.
Yeah, tell me about that, because I've got one hospitality project I'm working on, and so I've been thinking, how does hospitality reinvent itself as a result of this? Because it's had a seismic shift. So something new, interesting is going to come out of that. Any predictions, any early insight on how that might really play out?
Well, what we know from 9/11 and from the Great Recession of 2008, we know that hospitality demand in terms of occupancy drops dramatically after exogenous events, and then takes about 12 months, 12 to 18 months to get back up. So this is, even if a lot of people say it's a V-shaped recovery, we're going to get out of a recession, it's going to be down and back up, I don't think so. And hospitality, unfortunately, is a lagging indicator because people are going to first want to spend time with their friends, they're going to save some money, and only then are going to start spending it on vacation and things like that. So I think that hospitality will be slow to come back, but it will come back with a vengeance. People will want to take a break. People will look for new ways to experience things. But people will also look for new ways to get together with their friends and their loved ones and the people they share common things with.
I think events and hospitality could really come zooming back, maybe at the end of this year. I don't know about you, but I'm like, man, it's only been 3 or 4 days, and
you need a cocktail.
I do. I need an event. I need a good. I need a good meaningless chat over a cocktail, right?
I always say that events are the oldest form of human interaction after what. So, bringing anything that makes us realize how important and vital events are to our business or to our society, to our well-being, is really important. And I think things like this highlight the importance of the events industry. The hospitality industry is obviously events are within hospitality. So it's just a matter of time. I think we'll see more festivals. I mean, festival season was essentially canceled. Coachella, Bonnaroo, Kentucky Derby. I mean, the Met Gala, everything canceled. So we're going to be fiending for human connectivity. And
we are.
The events industry and the subsequent innovations that come out of this pandemic will be driving that connectivity.
So that's an interesting thought around opportunity. Like, how do we find the businesses and the opportunities to connect deeply on the back end of this pandemic? I mean, I think we're kind of sequestered here for a few months, but hopefully Q3 and Q4 gives us an opportunity to get outside again. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how long this actually lasts.
I think it's. I mean, Bill Gates came out today and said 6 to 10 weeks. Cuomo said, so basically the way to look at that is like average everything out, right? So Bill Gates says 6 to 10 weeks we can get out of this. The consortium out of London said 18 months, kind of going like this, because it'll come in and come out, come in and come out. So 18 months. Trump said July, August. Governor Cuomo said peak in 45 days. So you average all that out, and pretty much I think you get, so May, June, July, August. I think September is a realistic time frame.
So we're getting a couple questions. Do you have a little bit more time for some questions?
Brandon, I have nothing. I have nothing to
Never
do.
mind.
I'm unemployed. I am quarantined. I mean, what do I have? I have too much time.
It's funny you say that about time. So I'm refinancing the second trust on my house, and the bank said, well, you need to come in and fill out the application. I was like, what? On a normal day, I'd be like, I'm not coming in. Are you kidding me? But I'm like, I've got time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. All right. Anyway, we have a question from Levin. Levin is a small business owner, and he says, many small businesses will be at the mercy of landlords. Their decision will make or break the comeback for many businesses. Any thoughts? How do you deal with your landlord and your lease?
Look, I think it depends what's your style, right? I mean, like my style is like pretty aggressive in terms of negotiating. Landlords need cash. Everybody needs cash, right? Cash is the most important. If you just look at the markets, right? What happens in the markets is people are selling bonds, people are selling stocks, and people are selling gold. Everything's going down. And what that tells us is people are favoring liquidity. And that means that people want cash, because in times of uncertainty, cash is the best thing you can have. So that being said, you should be investing a portion of your investable equities portfolio now because it's a good discount, but that's an aside. So just like your landlord, just like you and everybody else, everybody needs, first thing I would do is look for force majeure in any of my legal stuff.
Yeah.
And then look for guidance from the county you're in to see what declaration has been put in place, because that may activate force majeure.
True.
That's number one. So understanding your legal contract and just asking your broker to help you out with that. That's number one. Number two, landlords, just like you and every other small business, need cash. And just because I explained, because cash is king in times of uncertainty. And the market is yet to stabilize because they haven't seen the government panic enough or act enough to give them comfort. Therefore, I would cut deals with my landlord. I mean, I would say everything's on the table, from, deferring payment to re-signing a lease now so they have more guaranteed income in the future, to renegotiating in the short term and double paying in the long term. People will go to, Levin, I know, owns a gym. People will go to the gym more than ever once they can go back. People will spend more money in restaurants more than ever once they can go out. Because at the end of the day, we all, small businesses, provide that require that you have a space or have community in their DNA. Everything is going to come back with a vengeance. The question is, can you last through the uncertainty?
Yeah.
How do you plan for that?
Right.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Right. Put together a plan that lasts you through as much time as possible, so you can just stay afloat.
Yeah, and I actually think tenants have a lot more leverage with their landlords now than ever before. I mean, what are they going to do? Evict you and move somebody else in? I mean, like literally, I think you say, look, I need 90 days to get through this, and here's what I will do. And
yeah, I mean, one of the things I learned from selling my company for a lot of money is every negotiation is, this sounds stupid, but every negotiation is puts and takes, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that think they don't have leverage in negotiations actually have way more leverage than they think.
Yeah.
The question is, how much leverage do you actually exercise? And have you identified all the leverage points you have in a negotiation?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to identify the leverage points.
So another question we have, this looks like it's a particular one in real estate. Of course, a lot of my people are real estate agents. So Don, what would be your advice to real estate agents right now? How would you approach it if you were a real estate agent?
Man, I mean,
it's interesting. You just contracted for a property
right now. I mean, look.
That's not helpful.
I mean, that's the reality. First of all, I would accept the reality.
Mm-hmm.
I would accept the reality. I mean, I think that, let me think about this for a second. So okay. I think the first thing is, if you are on the sell side,
yeah,
virtualize as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And explain to your sellers that they need to either go off market or go for a deep discount. And what you should say to them is, look, you can sell this now at probably 20% below market, what it was 2 weeks ago, but you will have cash. And you can take that cash and invest it and make more than the 20% you will lose. Right? So you have to present the full reality. Like number one rule of investing is remove emotions from investing. Right? So remove emotions from this asset you're connected to and realize it's just another fucking asset. And ask yourself, how much do I need cash? And what can I do with more cash? The cash you get today, you can put in the market and put to work, and that'll make you way more than what you might lose because of this short downturn.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing too is that how people are reacting on the real estate side depends a lot on where they are in real estate. I mean, the bread and butter side of the market isn't driven necessarily by the investment. They're driven by they need a place to live. But then you've got some of the upper thresholds of the market that are very much thinking like that. So I think, it's very locally driven. So you just contracted for this property in New York.
Well, I was just going to say, if you're on the buy side.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I mean, I'm on the buy side. I have a contract out. I put down the deposit, but I reached out to the seller and I said, look, I can do much more with this money and investment in other assets. So we have to renegotiate.
So
the response was, go fuck yourself. But
yeah, that's what I was going to say. How was that response?
But that's okay. I mean, we'll see what happens.
We'll
I
see
mean,
what happens.
I'm now looking at other properties, seeing if there's better deals out there. You
Mm.
got to think real estate's just an asset, and the price of an asset is decided by the market, but it's also decided by how important cash is to the buyer and the seller as well. And at times like this, cash is very important.
So we have another question. This is from Haniel. He says, how should restaurants shift their messaging online to help consumers feel safe about buying their food? So marketing messaging as a restaurant to keep people coming and feeling safe. Any
Yeah, I
thoughts on
saw
that?
some like VC the other day ask like, oh my God, can I touch the cardboard box? So first of all, I think that people need to understand where the virus lives on what surfaces. It's got a different lifespan depending on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So metals, marble, wood, cardboard, it's all dependent on what it's on. And I think it goes between a few hours to a few days. So the first thing is you need to understand the exposure that you might have. The second thing is, you need to inform people the messaging, right? Like, hey, this shit is safe. So
Right.
what I would do is I'd go on all my channels and literally give a behind the scenes tour of how
that's a great idea.
Of how we, prepare the food.
Yeah.
Like, literally get on your channel, make a video of that. That's the first thing. The second thing is I would rely on ambassadors, because people will trust ambassadors and their friends more than the restaurant. So what I would do is this is a bit complicated, so I hope you follow along. What I would do is I would get my customer list. Everybody's got a customer list. So whether I use Belly or whether I use MailChimp or whatever kind of customer list I have, I get my customer list. I would outsource for like about $20 or $30 that list to Upwork, and do some research on who those people are. So I get more of their email address, look them up on LinkedIn, etc. I would then find my top 10%, my top 100 ambassadors, those who live near me, those who I recognize, those that frequent, those that meet my demographics, and I would appeal to them first. So what I'm saying is I would use customer segmentation to really understand my list of customers and do very segmented and targeted marketing as a result. And I would then urge my ambassadors to get the message out in a very, very unique way. And there's, good old-fashioned flyering. Like, I remember my first job was handing out flyers for a falafel stand. Mm-hmm. So, like, make flyers. Mm-hmm. Whatever. So so those are some things I would do.
That's interesting. I think leverage other people's platforms and ability to communicate on your behalf is a standard and true. You're saying, take it even further, really understand who your customer is, which, by the way, is a pretty darn good exercise on a normal day, right? You're really going into some best practices around marketing at that point.
Totally. Yeah, but I think customer segmentation wins the day. And, this is why it's really important to have a pretty robust CRM to understand who your customers are and to have customer segments, but better late than never. You have more time on your hands, unfortunately.
True.
So use this as an opportunity to really segment your customer base to understand and then target the messages to them.
That's excellent advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think we have any other questions here.
I see one.
Oh, you do? What do you see?
What I want to know as a consumer is that employees are tested and COVID negative. Oh, okay. That's not a question.
That's not a question. Yeah, realizing that's not realistic. Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Look, I'll share with you. I'll share with our pathetic number of audience my plan.
Yeah. Hey, we got 13. Plan. We got 13. Oh, and we got one more question that's come in.
Look, if I was president, I want to actually, Brendan. Let me ask you.
Yes.
I want you to give me a 5 or 6 point plan of what you would do if you were president of the United States.
Put me on the spot. A 5 or 6 point plan. Well, first thing I would say, and that I would do, is this package that they put forward, not big enough. This is the time to go big or go home. right? So what is the package that you just saw that got passed?
I think it's $1 trillion. I think it's
$1 trillion.
$1,000 like this month, $1,000.
I was listening to a conversation that said that it was earlier today. I'm trying to think who it was. Said the rescue package during World War II as a percentage of GDP. If you were to roll that now to the present, we need a $4 trillion rescue package.
Okay, so number one. Okay, got it.
Number one, massive rescue package.
Okay.
Second is there's never been a better opportunity to fix healthcare.
Okay. No, I want action.
Oh, you want? Okay. Well, I'm not sure.
All right. Let me tell you my plan.
Okay. Was this actually a question that you wanted me to ask you, and so you asked me, and so now I'm asking you, Don? What would be your 5-point plan if you were president?
Okay. Here's what I would do. A 6-point plan. Number one, I would force quarantine and have them and force every citizen to quarantine and enforce it with the military. Number
Somebody
two,
just said that. Nellie Yvonne said I would enforce a strict quarantine. So
strict quarantine enforced by the military.
Boy, you'd go hardcore immediately.
It's the only way.
Okay.
It's the only way. Number one. Number two, test every single human, every American. Test every American.
How would you do that? How would you actually?
I don't know. I'd figure it out. Test every American. Right. Number two. Number three, give every American a $2,000 per month until a certain
I agree with you on that. That's part of my $4 trillion rescue package, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number four, I would start producing the Defense Production Act. We're doing that.
I saw that today. That was smart. Finally,
so start producing, ventilators, masks, etc. Number five.
5 is a lot.
No, I have 2 more.
Oh,
I forget. But anyway, number 5, I would dismantle all regulation, such as antitrust, and get pharmaceutical companies working together. So I'd dismantle regulation and I would nationalize pharmaceutical companies right now.
Yeah, okay. You got one more?
I have one more, but I forgot what it is.
That's a good one. And you're frozen. Perfect timing. So, as he's coming back, Ariana, you asked, when do you think events tourism industry will be stabilized? We talked about that a little bit earlier. 18 months is sort of the thought on that cycle. And oh, he left. We lost him. That was fun. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you joining us today. Hopefully that was real. Oh, he's coming back in. Let's see if I can get him in. I'm trying to let you in, man. Okay, trying. Here we go again. Hold tight. We're going to bring him back.
Yo!
You're back. Oh, you're back.
Wow.
Yeah, we can't end like that. That was like... So, any other thoughts?
No, people are joining. We should keep going. I have nothing better to do. I literally have nothing better to do.
All right.
Why don't let me interview you?
All right. Hey, sure. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. How much do you miss me? 1 through 10.
9.5.
That's like when Trump got asked how good of a job you're doing. He was like
10. Man, are you freaking out every time you cough, thinking that you it's?
No, I mean, I'm not freaking out. I'm just look. I'll be honest with you. I think I'm really concerned. I'm super concerned. And I actually went to the CVS today, and there was no Tylenol left. Mm-hmm. There were no thermometers. Vitamin A is sold out. And it's just wild. People are walking away, moving away from my dog. It's it's crazy. And I think this is, it's just really scary. And for the first time, I'm actually thinking about going to buy a gun. I'm not even kidding. Because who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Well, on a positive note, we have some more questions.
Oh, good.
That was going downhill fast.
Talking about buying a gun.
That was going downhill fast. How can content marketing companies position themselves now for events when the market picks back up? That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, content marketing is one of those things that, like, you know, you build over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a really good content campaign, a good content strategy is pretty timeless.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think obviously depends on what your niche is, like what your thing is in the events industry.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's funny. Like one of the best performing content pieces we had at Social Tables was how to name your event company. So it's just like it's ridiculous things like that. But I mean, I would just so it's actually the wrong question to ask. How can we build content marketing for a strategy? Really, the question that you should be asking is, what are my core competencies? What are my disadvantages? What are my unique value propositions? And focus on them and develop content around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah, and I would add that right now the giving economy is huge, right? So, like, what can you just be giving away for free to position yourself? Well, I mean, first of all, it's a nice thing to do, regardless of positioning, and you're going to be rewarded for that on the back end, big time, by industries and clients that might pick you up as a result of seeing what you're producing right now. So it's kind of a little bit of a volume play in some ways.
Yeah, I guess that's good. I mean, my whole thing is like, I was actually never big on CSR, to be honest, when I ran Social Tables. Mm-hmm. I wasn't into corporate social responsibility. Because I think a lot of folks, I think like that's really reserved for like the huge companies. Social Tables, we didn't have, you know, we're doing like, we were just barely breaking even, doing, you know, even at $20 million a year. So I just don't think CSR makes sense. And the only CSR that makes sense, in my opinion, is the CSR that generates you leads. So any just random CSR that doesn't have a business outcome is, I think, stupid, to be honest.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a bit, people don't like that approach. But
so I thought you were interviewing me. What happened here? We flip the script on that?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Let's do that. Okay, so there was a question here. Brandon, what are your thoughts of how real estate agents, should handle current business buyers and sellers want to be active in the market?
Then be active with them. I think what we've seen are a couple, particularly on the seller side, there's a lot you can do virtually. I was just talking to an agent the other day who did a complete listing of the property. The owner toured them around with their video or with their Zoom interface. They listed the property. Everything was done. Nobody even went into the house. So I think there are buyers and sellers who want to be active right now. I think you've got to find a way to accommodate that. If you're showing houses, then drive in 2 cars instead of 1. And, you know, if it's a vacant property, then bring your Purell. If it's not a vacant property, then maybe you have some questions. But I think the degree to which your clients are interested, keep it moving. That's my sense on that.
Is there any sense? Is there any leading indicators of what's to come in real estate that you've seen?
Yeah, I think what's the market of the moment? Like what's coming, right? Investors. I think investors have been on the sidelines for a good long time. And they're going, oh, wait a minute, I think I can probably get a deal. Maybe not today, because real estate doesn't react as fast as other markets do. You know, it tends to have a bit of a lag effect. Come the fall, maybe even late in the summer, I think there's going to be some great investor deals. You mentioned it earlier. Some people are going to need the liquidity from their houses, their investments, their real estate, pure and simple. That's going to create some opportunities on the buy side. And if you're an agent, that's going to create some opportunities on the listing side. So that whole thing is now in play again. And that has not been in play seriously since the last cycle.
So, I mean, you're old enough to have lived through many recessions. What have you learned from so many recessions you've lived through?
Well, the
Why
last
aren't you
thing.
laughing? That was funny.
Oh, well, because it's true. This is the second one, I guess.
What separated the wheat from the chaff during previous recessions?
Activity. So In the last real estate recession, 8 and 9, the big one, right? The number of clients you had available to you dropped significantly, but there were still a lot of people buying and selling real estate. But in order to capture that smaller market, you had to just do a lot more activity in order to capture that smaller market. But the market was still there. So sometimes you get into your head like, oh, the entire market has disappeared. In the DC area, there's thousands of real estate transactions a month. So maybe half get wiped off the board. You probably only need a few, right? And meanwhile, there's at least hundreds of transactions still occurring. So the market is still quite robust. It's really how you're thinking about it, but you got to double your activity. I see the other thing, though, is expenses. We talked about it earlier in the live. Right now, you've got to be brutal on your expenses. There's no room for extra, I don't even know what this is, expenses. So people who did well in the last run, they quickly adjusted their overhead. They went from fixed to variable costs. They cut as many variable costs as they could. They did it fast. I'll say one third point that I've noticed even in this last week is this is a good time to pick up some talent, because there's a lot of people that are going to be laid off. There's people that are shifting around. And for the last several years, it was hard to hire good people because the market was so robust. That's all changed. So for those that make it through this next shift, huge talent acquisition opportunities to bring into your organization. That's in real estate and outside of real estate.
Fascinating.
So I think there's a ton of opportunity in real estate. I think, and we'll see how this plays out, but the last big recession, real estate was the center point of that, real estate and the financial markets. This is so broad. I don't know how it's going to play out in real estate necessarily. I mean, it's going to shift it, certainly, but it'll be different, I think. And regardless, though, I think there's going to be some big investor opportunities that are going to pop up as a result.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard to, from an investor portfolio, this really gets every single investment you might have. So like I'm in hotels, I'm in restaurants, I'm in real estate, I'm in small business loans, and all those are hit at the same time. Exactly, because it's all consumer dependent.
It is. And probably the one that's done the best is probably real estate, because real estate can't move as rapidly as a lot of those other ones can. Yeah. So at least for the short term, real estate's probably performed the best out of all of them, I would imagine.
Yeah. Are you buying stock?
I'm not I don't do that because I just don't know it well enough. Like, to me, that's not a space.
I buy an index fund.
Well, I've got my guy doing it, right? But I don't do it.
Yeah, but you got to at least know enough to tell your guy to get his shit together.
I would say that is an area that I am not as attuned to as I should be.
Yeah. At least put the heat on the guy. You know what I'm saying?
I have done that. We've had some calls. Like, we're all over that.
Good.
I'm asking questions. Like, I'm really engaged. So it's not a passive activity, but I'm also not actively trading or buying things directly.
Good.
I don't understand that.
Good. Any? What else do you want to talk about? Should we just stop?
Yeah, I think so. I actually have something else I have to do.
I don't have shit to do.
I know you don't. You're gonna go back to Twitter.
I just have to watch the news and you start being concerned for the world.
Yes, well, we're there. Follow him on Twitter, folks, if you haven't already. DANBERGER.
Holler at your boy.
You're really actually getting really good at Twitter. I'm saying that you are.
Stop.
I don't know that you were before, but maybe I just didn't notice.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever told me.
I'm following your lead, though. If you've noticed, like, I've been trying to blow up Twitter at 25% of your volume.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing things happens when you have a constant flow of information and no one to talk to except for your phone.
Yes. Maybe I need to come over and visit and check on you from time to time.
That would be great. Yeah, send care packages and wash your hands.
Okay, all right.
I actually did set up a sanitizing station at the entrance of my house.
Did you? Yeah. Well, we had some people come over, or I had somebody come over today for a meeting. I was like, wash your hands. Like, and I actually got gloves. I got my order of gloves.
Really? My masks come in tomorrow.
Yeah, I ordered masks. They're coming on Friday, but I did.
Where'd you get masks?
On Amazon.
Really? You found them?
I did.
How much you pay for them?
$5 each, I think. I only got a few. Like, I'm not even sure. They're probably not even the right masks.
Which ones did you get, the N95?
No, I didn't find N95.
Or you just got surgical masks?
Yeah,
You're gonna die.
just makes me feel better.
You know what you're supposed to wear? You put it on your head. Don't forget, you put it on your head.
Put it on your head.
No, I'm just fucking with you.
Okay, all right. All right, my friend. Thanks.
Thanks for including me. This was fun.
This was fun. Let's do it again.
Okay.
Okay. All right, folks.
Yeah.
We're going to do this again.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
See you later. Bye.